Imagine walking out of a meeting on a Tuesday afternoon. Your manager just told you that you're getting a $10,000 raise. You text a friend, you take yourself out to dinner, and for about 3 weeks, you feel like a completely different person. But then a year passes. You open your banking app on a quiet Sunday morning, and the number is exactly where it was. That raise was real, but it never made it into your wealth. To see where it went, we have to look at the math. For a middle-income worker, taxes take 30% off the top. You're negotiating with $7,000. That $7,000 arrives spread across 26 paychecks, about $270 every 2 weeks. A slow drip your brain barely notices. This happens because of hedonic adaptation. When you get an upgrade, a new car, a bigger apartment, or more money, your happiness spikes, and then your brain quickly resets the baseline. The upgrade becomes the new normal. This creates a specific problem for your savings. You cannot save a baseline. You can only save the gap between what you earn and what feels normal to spend. Lifestyle creep is the process of closing that gap until it disappears. In timeline A, we see the default response. Economists call this the marginal propensity to consume, the fraction of every extra dollar that a household spends rather than saves. For a permanent raise, most households end up spending about 90% of the increase. This spending isn't driven by one big purchase, it's driven by 20 small ones. The new streaming service, the grocery delivery fees, the slightly nicer gym. These micro upgrades quietly rewrite your spending baseline over a year. If you only save the residual 10%, $700 a year, and invest it at a 7% real return, the outcome is modest. Over 30 years, that stream grows into about $66,000 in today's money. That is the outcome when lifestyle creep wins. The raise is quietly absorbed right into your daily habits, leaving your future self with almost nothing to show for it. Now we reset to that same Tuesday. Same job, same $7,000 take-home bump. But this time we follow timeline B. Here you use an intercept strategy before the first paycheck even hits. You set up an automatic transfer to route exactly half of the raise, $3,500 a year, straight into an investment account. Using the same 7% return, the timeline B line moves upward much faster. Over 30 years, that same raise grows into $330,000. The gap between these two timelines is more than $250,000. Nothing about your skills or your career changed. The only difference was the percentage of the raise you redirected to your future self before your brain decided the extra money was normal. Compounding doesn't care about how hard you work. It only cares about how much you feed it and how long it has to grow. If the math is this clear, why don't more people just choose timeline B? Why isn't everyone budgeting to save half their raises? Because traditional budgeting is like running uphill. It requires constant attention and forces you to say no to yourself dozens of times every week. Behavioral research shows that this kind of constant self-denial is biologically unsustainable for most people. You can grit your way through a budget for a few months, but you can't grit your way through it for 30 years. Budgeting is a system of friction, and friction eventually loses to the silent, automated process of lifestyle creep. The solution is to remove the decision entirely. The week the raise arrives, you increase your 401k contribution or your automated brokerage transfer, locking it in before the money ever feels available. By saving half, you bypass the feeling of sacrifice. To your brain, you've simply received a smaller raise. The half you let through is still real money. It still provides lifestyle improvements and more breathing room today. But the half you locked away buys you choices tomorrow. It buys the ability to retire on your own terms. The most powerful moment in your financial life is the first paycheck after a raise. That is when compounding either gets fed or gets starved. You just have to choose which autopilot is running.